The silence in the room wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, suffocating. The kind of silence that happens right before a bomb goes off. My mother was staring at the suitcase I had just set down. My brother Jason was smirking, his sunglasses reflecting the California sun, looking at me like I was the punchline to a joke he'd been telling for years. They expected the usual Claire, the doormat, the fixer, the girl who flew 10 hours from London just to be told she was babysitting while they sipped margaritas on a beach I paid for. But the Claire standing in that doorway had left her patients somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't beg for the hug my mother had withheld. I just felt a cold, mechanical click in my chest. A switch flipping. I looked my mother in the eye, smiled a smile that didn't reach my eyes, and said one sentence. That was the moment the laughing stopped. That was the moment their faces drained of color. By the time I was finished with them, their dream vacation was incinerated. Their house was on the chopping block, and I was done being the family bank. If you have ever felt like the black sheep who is only loved when the check clears, you need to hear this story. Because I didn't just leave. I burned the bridge so bright it lit my way to freedom. To understand why I detonated my family dynamic on Christmas Eve, you have to understand the architecture of the trap they had built for me. It didn't start that day. It started with a phone call 3 weeks prior. It was 3 a.m. in London. Rain was lashing against my flat's window when my phone lit up. FaceTime. Mom, I answered, panic rising in my throat, thinking someone had died. But no one was dead. My mother was sobbing, her face a pixelated mask of tragedy. We never see you, she wailed. The family's falling apart without you. Just come home for the holidays, Claire. Please. Just this once. Just this once. That phrase should be etched on my tombstone. It was the Miller family motto. Just this once was how I ended up wiring $3,000 when my dad needed knee surgery. Just this once was how I covered my brother's credit card debt when his dropshipping business imploded. Just this once was the preface to every financial bleeding I had endured for a decade. But like an idiot. Or maybe just the daughter desperate for approval. I believed the tears. I booked the flight. I spent 10 hours in a cramped middle seat, endured 2 layovers, and survived on stale pretzels and hope. I landed in San Diego with a suitcase full of gifts for my niece and nephew, genuinely thinking, that this year might be different. Maybe they actually missed me, not just my wallet. I dragged my luggage up the driveway of the house I grew up in. My back was screaming, my eyes burned from jet lag, and I smelled like recycled airplane air. I rang the bell, my heart doing that stupid, hopeful flutter. I wanted a hug. I wanted them to know me. People would know me. The door flew open. My mother stood there. She didn't smile. She didn't open her arms. Her eyes immediately dropped to my suitcase, assessing its size, then flicked back to my face with the warmth of a TSA agent. You made it, she said. Not a greeting, a statement of fact. Then, without missing a beat, good. You'll babysit your brother's kids. We're going on a family trip. It took a second for the words to register. Before I could speak, Jason stepped into the frame. He looked too good for someone who was allegedly broke. Designer sunglasses, a fresh haircut, a leather duffel bag slung over his shoulder. His kids, Mia and Logan, were hanging off his arms, sticky-handed and screaming. Jason looked at me, smirked, and turned to his children. Hey guys, watch out. Don't wipe your snot on Aunt Claire. She's jet-lagged and grumpy. They laughed. My parents laughed. My brother laughed. It was a reflex, a synchronized cackle where I was the prop. I stood there, holding a bag of gifts I had spent hours wrapping, realizing I wasn't a guest. I wasn't a daughter. I was staff. And that's when the click happened. It was audible in my head. The part of me that craved their love just died. It withered away and was replaced by something cold, sharp, and incredibly focused. I smiled. Of course, I said. Let's get everyone inside. We have some things to go over before you leave. They mistook my calm for compliance. They thought I was rolling over, just like I always did. My mom ushered everyone in, chattering about the itinerary. It's going to be so good for us, Claire, she said, tapping a glossy brochure on the kitchen counter. A real me. We've been so stressed. I followed them into the kitchen. The brochure was laid out like a religious artifact. The Royal Sands Resort. All-inclusive. 5 stars. I recognized the logo because I recognized the confirmation email I had received a week prior, the one attached to the credit card they had accidentally kept on file. My dad was already sitting at the head of the dining table, looking like a king waiting for his feast. Jason was leaning against the counter, scrolling on his phone, ignoring his kids who were currently using my shins as a jungle gym. Okay, I said, my voice steady. Everyone in the dining room, now. Something in my tone made Jason look up. It wasn't loud, but it had an edge to it, a sharpness they weren't used to. My mom laughed nervously. Claire, honey, we have to pack. We don't have time for a chat. Mate time, I said. I didn't move. I didn't blink. One by one, they shuffled to the table. Confusion started to replace the arrogance. I pulled out my laptop, set it on the table, and opened it. The screen glowed, illuminating the only thing that mattered anymore, the spreadsheet. Before anyone goes anywhere, I said, turning the laptop so the screen faced them. We need to talk about the math. Jason groaned, throwing his head back. Oh my God, Claire. Seriously? Right now? You're gonna do the accountant thing the second you walk in the door? My dad drummed his fingers on the table. This is bad timing, Claire. We have a flight to catch. You have plenty of time, I assured him, because nobody is going anywhere until we review this. I clicked on the first tab. The file was named Miller Household Liabilities. I had spent the flight organizing it. Every row was color-coded. Every date was verified. It was a forensic accounting of my own exploitation. Last March, I began, my voice cutting through the room. Mom called me crying because the mortgage was 2 months behind. She said Dad's pension check got messed up. I wired $1,200. I highlighted the row. In June, I continued, ignoring my mother's flinch. Jason's big e-commerce idea maxed out his credit cards. He needed a bailout to avoid bankruptcy. I sent $2,500. Jason shifted in his seat. I told you I'd pay you back for that. It was a loan. A loan implies repayment, I said coldly. I haven't seen a dime. Shall we continue? August. The water heater broke. $900. September. Dad's truck needed tires. $600. October. The electric bill was past due. $300. I scrolled down. The list went on and on. It wasn't just emergencies, it was lifestyle subsidies. This doesn't include the subscriptions, I said, pointing to the smaller repeating numbers. Disney Plus, Netflix, Hulu, the Spotify family plan, your Walmart Plus membership, the cell phone family plan that I pay for entirely. I looked at my mother. And the emergency Venmo requests. $200 here for groceries that coincided with your new manicure. $300 there for gas. On the same day you posted photos from that expensive brunch spot downtown. My mother gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. You tracked that? You were watching us? I was paying for it, I corrected her. There is a difference. My dad's face was turning a dangerous shade of red. This is petty, Claire. You're nickeling and dimming your own family. We raised you. We put a roof over your head. And for the last 3 years, I have been paying for that roof, I shot back. I scrolled to the bottom of the sheet. The final row was bolded. The font size increased for legibility. It was a number that could buy a luxury car, a down payment on a house, a life, $60,450. I read aloud. That is the total amount of money I have transferred to this family in the last 36 months. The room went silent, dead silent, the kind of silence where you can hear the refrigerator humming. Jason blinked, staring at the number. My mom was shaking her head, whispering, "No, that's not right. That can't be right." "It is exactly right," I said. "I have every receipt, every bank statement, every text message begging for help." I reached into my bag and pulled out a stack of paper. It was a simple document, drafted with the help of a template, but binding enough for my purposes. I slid it across the table, right next to their precious vacation itinerary. "This," I said, "is an acknowledgement of debt. It's not a lawsuit. I'm not dragging you to court yet. It simply states that you acknowledge this $60,000 was not a gift. It outlines a repayment plan. $50 a month, 100. I don't care about the speed. I care about the principle." My dad looked at the paper like it was radioactive. "You want us to sign a contract? We're your parents." "Family doesn't hide a mortgage in their daughter's name," I said, my voice dropping an octave. "Family doesn't spend her money on resorts while she sits in a flat in London eating ramen. Family doesn't treat me like an ATM and then laugh at me when I walk through the door." "I can't sign this," Jason stammered. "Claire, look at me. I'm broke. I have kids. If I sign this, it's like legal debt. I can't have that on my record." "Then maybe you shouldn't have spent $2,500 of my money on a business that didn't exist," I said. My mom was crying now, real tears this time. "You're ruining Christmas. You're humiliating us." "Why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything to you," I said. "I am simply showing you the reality you've been ignoring. You act like this money appears by magic. It doesn't. It comes from my labor, my hours, my life." I leaned forward. "If you ever tell a neighbor or a cousin or post on Facebook that I am an ungrateful daughter who abandoned you, I will publish this spreadsheet. I will show everyone exactly who paid for the new TV. I will show them who paid for the tires on the truck. I will show them everything." My dad slammed his hand on the table. "Enough. You made your point. You're selfish. You've let London change you. Now put that computer away so we can go on our trip. We'll discuss this nonsense when we get back." He stood up, reaching for his keys. He thought he still had the power. He thought he could just shout me down and things would go back to normal. He thought the trip was still happening. I let out a short, dry laugh. "Sit down, Dad." "I'm leaving," he barked. "And you're watching the kids." "No," I said. "I'm not." "And you're not leaving, because there is no trip." He froze. "What?" I clicked to the next tab on my browser. It was the reservation portal for the Royal Sands Resort. The confirmation number was visible, and right next to it in big, bold red letters, "Cancel." "I called the resort 3 days ago," I said comfortably, "and the airline, since the bookings were made with my credit card, the one you kept on file for emergencies. I had every right to manage the reservation." You didn't," my mom whispered. "I did," I said. "The full amount has been refunded to my card. The flight credits have been transferred to my name. There are no tickets. There is no suite. There is no all-inclusive buffet." I looked at Jason. "There is no vacation." The color drained from Jason's face. "You're lying. We have the itinerary printed right here." "Paper is just paper," I said. "Call them. Go ahead." Put it on speaker. Jason fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking. He dialed the number on the brochure. We all listened as the automated voice connected him to a receptionist. He gave the confirmation number. There was a pause. Then the tinny voice from the speakerphone said, "I'm sorry, sir. That reservation was canceled on the 20th. The funds will return to the primary cardholder, Miss Claire Miller. Jason dropped the phone on the table. It clattered loudly in the silent kitchen. My dad looked like he was having a stroke. His hands were clenched into fists. You have no right. That was our trip. We told people we were going. We told the neighbors. And now you can tell the neighbors you're staying home, I said. Because you can't afford a 5-star resort. You can barely afford the electricity to light this room. Get out, my dad hissed. Not yet, I said. I have one more tab to show you. If you think canceling the vacation was the nuclear option, you're wrong. That was just the warning shot. What came next was the scorched earth. I clicked to the final window. It was an email from the bank. The subject line read, Joint Mortgage Inquiry. We need to talk about the house we are sitting in, I said. My mom went pale. Claire, please. Not the house. You put my name on this mortgage 5 years ago, I said. You told me it was just a formality to get a better rate. You promised I would never have to pay a dime. But I checked my credit report. I checked the payment history. You've been late 6 times this year alone. Every time you miss a payment, my credit score takes a hit. I pressed a key, and a video file opened. I had a meeting with a financial advisor before I flew here. I want you to meet her. My dad stared at the screen, hatred burning in his eyes. I don't want to listen to some stranger. You don't have a choice, I said. I hit play. The video was a recording of a Zoom call. My advisor, a sharp woman named Sarah, was speaking clearly. Hi, Claire. Regarding the joint mortgage liability, since you are a co-bore thrower, you are fully liable for the debt. However, given the pattern of payments coming from your personal accounts to cover shortfalls, you have grounds to request a removal from the loan. This would force a refinancing event. If the other parties, your parents, cannot qualify for the loan on their own income, the bank may require the asset to be sold to satisfy the debt. I paused the video. Sold? My mom's voice was a squeak. They would take the house? If you can't qualify for the loan without my income, I said, yes. And looking at the spreadsheet, looking at the spending, I don't think you can qualify. You're going to make us homeless, Jason said, his voice quiet and horrified. You're actually going to put Mom and Dad on the street? No, I said firmly. I am removing my name from a financial anchor that is dragging me down. If they can afford to pay for the house, they keep the house. If they can't, well, maybe they shouldn't be living here. I stood up. I have already submitted the paperwork to the bank to begin the separation process. They will be contacting you for updated income verification. I suggest you start gathering your pay stubs and maybe sell the new TV. My dad lunged across the table. He didn't hit me, but he grabbed the laptop, slamming it shut. You ungrateful little witch. After everything we did for you, you think you're better than us? You think you can just walk in here and dictate our lives? I think I'm done paying for them, I said, grabbing my laptop bag and sliding it into my bag. If you walk out that door, my dad roared, pointing a trembling finger at the entryway. You are dead to us. Don't call. Don't come back. You are not my daughter. I looked at him, really looked at him. I saw the fear behind the anger. He wasn't mad because I was leaving. He was mad because his safety net was walking away. You decided my value was measured in dollars, I said quietly. If I'm not welcome without my checkbook, then I was never really welcome at all. I turned to my mother. She was weeping into her hands. Mom? She looked up. I waited. I waited for her to say, Gary, stop. She's our daughter. I waited for her to choose me over the lifestyle. How are we supposed to pay the bills? She sobbed. Claire, how do we eat next month? That was my answer. The same way everyone else does, I said. Get a budget. I grabbed my suitcase handle. The wheels hummed against the tile as I turned my back on the dining room, on the printed itinerary, on the spreadsheet, and on the family that had eaten me alive for a decade. Get out, my dad screamed one last time. And don't come crying to us when you fail. I didn't look back. I opened the front door, stepped into the cool evening air, and pulled it shut behind me. The latch clicked. It was the most satisfying sound I had ever heard. I went standing on the curb with nowhere to go, or so they thought, because here is the twist they didn't see coming. I hadn't just booked the flight home. I had been planning this for months. I pulled out my phone and opened the Uber app. But I didn't type in the airport. I typed in an address right there in downtown San Diego. I wasn't going back to London. Not yet. Stay tuned, because what happened in the next 6 months didn't just teach them a lesson. It completely destroyed the fake reality they lived in. And if you think my dad's Facebook posts were bad, wait until you hear about the Repo Man. I stood on the curb, the California twilight, turning the sky a bruised purple. My phone buzzed in my hand. My mother, then Jason, then my mother again. I didn't look at the texts. I simply silenced the device, watched the Uber driver pull up, and loaded my suitcase into the trunk. Where to? The driver asked. He looked tired. I felt that. Downtown, I said. The Meridian Tower. He raised an eyebrow. It was a nice building, but drove off without a word. As lovely suburban streets of my childhood faded in the rearview mirror, replaced by the highway leading to the city, I felt a phantom weight lift off my chest. I had done it. I had actually done it. They thought I was homeless. They thought I would be scrambling for a hotel, crying in the lobby, desperate for their forgiveness so I could have a place to sleep. They had no idea that 6 months ago, using the money I had managed to hide from their prying eyes, I had put a down payment on a 1-bedroom condo in the heart of the city. I had bought it as an investment initially, a just-in-case parachute. But deep down, I think I knew. I knew this day would come. I arrived at the building. The lobby was cool, smelling of lemon polish and silence. I keyed into the elevator and rode it to the 8th floor. When I opened the door to unit 804, it wasn't much, just an empty living room, a small kitchen, and a view of the city lights. But it was mine. No mortgage hidden in fine print. No brother sleeping on the couch. No guilt. I dropped my bag and sat on the floor, my back against the wall. I opened my laptop one last time. I had one final test to complete. I went to my banking portal, the scheduled transfers tab. There they were, the auto pays I had set up years ago to keep the peace. Miller Mortgage Supplement, $1,200. Cancel. SD Power and Electric Auto Pay. Cancel. Verizon Family Plan. Cancel. Netflix, 4 screens. Cancel. Each click was a severance, a distinct cutting of a cord. I felt lightheaded, terrified, and exhilaratingly free. The fallout began exactly 48 hours later. I went unpacking my clothes when my phone lit up with a notification from Facebook. It was a message from my friend Emma. Hey, have you seen what your dad is posting? People are talking. My stomach twisted. I opened the app. And there it was. My dad had posted a long, rambling status. No names, of course. He was too cowardly for that, but the implication was clear. It's a sad day when you realize you raised a snake. Some children forget where they come from the minute they get a little taste of money. Abandoning your family at Christmas? Leaving your parents with nothing? I hope the cold comfort of cash keeps you warm at night. Pray for us. We are being tested by betrayal. Underneath, the comments were a cesspool of sympathy. So sorry, Gary, that's awful. Kids these days are so entitled. If you need anything, let us know. Shame on her. He was controlling the narrative. He was painting himself as the martyr and me as the Judas. He wanted me to see this. He wanted me to feel the shame, to crack, to call him begging to fix it, just to make the public humiliation stop. I typed out a response. My fingers hovered over the keys. I wanted to scream. I wanted to post the spreadsheet. I wanted to upload the screenshot of the vacation cancellation and the bank letters. Actually, I paid $60,000 in 3 years, I typed. Then I stopped. If I engaged, I was playing his game. I was entering the mud pit, and the thing about wrestling with pigs is that you both get dirty, but the pig likes it. I backspaced. I deleted the draft. And then I did something better. I blocked him. I blocked my mom. I blocked Jason. I blocked the aunts and uncles who were liking the post. I went digital dark. If they wanted to reach me, they could send a letter. For the first month, the silence was agonizing. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but La Lisa liked a real me. I bought a second-hand couch. I found a coffee shop I liked. I worked remotely for my London firm, the time difference working in my favor. But while I was building, their world was dismantling. I knew this not because I talked to them, but because paperwork has a way of finding you. 3 weeks in, I got an email from the bank. Urgent. Mortgage refinance denied due to insufficient income verification from primary occupants. I smiled. They had tried to refinance to get my name off, just like the bank demanded. But without my salary to pad the numbers, the math didn't math. A week later, I got a call from a collections agency looking for Jason. He had listed me as a reference on a loan application years ago. I'm sorry, I told the agent pleasantly. I have no contact with that individual. Please remove my number. But the real blow, the one that shattered their delusion, came 2 months later. I was walking to my car to get groceries when I saw a truck I recognized. It was my dad's Ford F-150. It was unmistakable. He had a specific bumper sticker on the back. It was stopped at a red light 2 blocks from my condo. My heart hammered. Had he found me? Was he stalking me? Then I looked closer. My dad wasn't driving. A stranger in a high-vis vest was behind the wheel. And on the side of the truck door, a magnet had been slapped on A1 Recovery Sextras. It was being repossessed. My dad loved that truck more than he loved most people. He washed it every Sunday. He bragged about the Hemi engine. And now, some stranger was driving it to an auction lot because the man who owned it couldn't pay the note without his daughter's help. I stood on the corner and watched it turn left and disappear. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt correct. The laws of physics were finally applying to the Miller household. Action, reaction, debt, consequence. The next 4 months passed in a blur of work and healing. I started therapy. I realized that my value wasn't tied to how useful I was. I learned to buy things for myself without guilt. Then Christmas rolled around again. I hadn't spoken to them in a year. The silence had calcified into a wall. I assumed I would spend the holiday alone, ordering Chinese food and watching movies. I was okay with that, but on December 23rd, my intercom buzzed. I looked at the grainy camera feed. It was Jason. He didn't have his sunglasses. He didn't have the swagger. He was wearing a faded hoodie, and he looked tired. Older. I hesitated. Then I buzzed him up. I met him at my door, keeping the chain on just in case. What do you want, Jason? He looked at me through the crack. I'm not here to ask for money, Claire. I swear. I undid the chain and opened the door. He stepped into my hallway, looking around at my small, tidy life. Nice place, he said awkwardly. It's quiet, I said. Why are you here? He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Mom wanted to come, but she was too embarrassed. Dad is Dad. He's still posting stuff, but nobody listens anymore. The neighbors figured it out when the truck got towed. I waited. I wanted to give you this. He reached into his pocket. I tensed, expecting a bill, a summons, a letter. Instead, he pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check. It was for $500. I know it's not 60 grand, Jason said, looking at his shoes. But I sold the DJ equipment, and I picked up shifts at the Amazon warehouse. Night shift pays a differential. I stared at the check. $500. It was a drop in the ocean, but the water was clear. I moved into a smaller apartment, he continued. The kids are sharing a room. It sucks, honestly. But I paid the rent myself last month. First time in my life, really. He looked up at me, his eyes wet. You were right, Claire, about the spreadsheet. We were drowning you, and we were laughing about it. A lump formed in my throat. This was it. The moment of accountability I had stopped hoping for. Thank you, I said softly. Dad won't change, Jason said. He's too proud. He'd rather lose the house than admit he was wrong. And they might lose the house, Claire. The bank is pushing for a short sale. I know, I said. I signed the authorization papers last week. Jason nodded slowly. Okay, well, that's fair. He turned to leave. Merry Christmas, Claire. Jason? He stopped. Do you want to come in for coffee? Just coffee. He smiled, a real smile this time. Yeah, I'd like, but we sat in my living room for an hour. We didn't talk about money. We talked about his kids. We talked about my job. For the first time, we were just brother and sister, not debtor and creditor. When he left, I didn't feel lonely. I felt cleansed. My parents did eventually lose the house. They downsized to a rental 2 towns over. My dad still tells stories about how the bank screwed him, how the economy is rigged, how his daughter abandoned him. He needs that story to survive. He protects his ego. But I don't need his story anymore. I have my own. I spent that Christmas Eve on my secondhand couch, looking at the city lights of San Diego. I had a positive network. I had a brother who was learning to be a man. And I had the most valuable thing of all, peace. So, here is my message to you. If you are the person in your family who is always giving, always fixing, always paying, stop. Look at the people around you. Are they loving you or are they using you? If the money stopped today, would they still answer the phone? It is terrifying to cut the cord. You will feel guilty. They will call you selfish. They will smear your name. But family is not a suicide pact. You're not required to set yourself on fire just to keep them warm. I lost a lot of money learning that lesson. $60,000 to be exact. But looking back, it was a small price to pay for my life. If this story resonated with you, if you ever felt like the bank for your own blood, do me a favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because sometimes the best gift you can give yourself is a goodbye.